But what we are going to talk about is all the basic functionalities of Essentials, and the target is to enable the participant to compile surveys and distribute them to participants. Most of the time we're going to talk about building a survey, so how the process goes and how we're going to distribute it. And in the end we'll have just a little bit of time for reporting as well, but that will actually be covered quite quickly. About the agenda in a little bit more detail. So we're going to go through Essentials in general, from signing in, navigating different parts of the system and your own personal settings. And like I said, the majority of the time we're going to spend on building a new survey. So everything from survey settings, question types, to the survey structure, additional languages, distribution, and briefly alerts as well. And in the very end, we're going to go through testing, validation, and then publishing a survey. And after that, last but not least, filters, reporting options, and follow up fairly briefly. So like I said, about an hour or so. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Hopefully everybody has their own logins already. If you forget where to log in from, it's enough if you remember questback.com, and it should direct you to your own country site. So mine is Finnish, obviously, so I have a login option here on the top, and it has a few options, and we're using Essentials, so that's where you can log in and change your password, etc. But I've already logged in, and this is the first view that you're going to get every time after you log in. So it's called the Activity Overview. You have a button for it on the top here. You also have a Quest section, a Quests button. So this is where all the work happens. This is where you compile all the surveys, look at your results. So that's where everything happens really. And then you have a Contact section here as well. We'll have a brief look at that too. And on the top right you have a menu, and we'll see what that's all about as well. Activity Overview. My sound disappears. I think it's probably something to do with your connection. My connection, I'll check it quickly because it should actually tell me about the actual sound quality. Yeah, looks okay. Audio quality good. So unfortunately, I think it's something to do with your connection there. We're actually also recording this session, so you can always get hold of the recording afterwards. And you know, if you have terrible trouble, you won't miss the whole thing. Yes. Anyway, in the Activity Overview, yeah, it's a sort of a shortcut section, overview section. So you have general statistics regarding what's happened in your accounts or your active quests, completed quests. So by quests we mean survey in Essentials. And also you get your recent quests that you've been working on. And we also have regular updates to Essentials. So you'll get the latest news here regarding the latest release. For example, we have video, documentation, etc. From the activity view, you can already start compiling a new quest. There's two options in the green button here. You can start a new quest from scratch or create a new quest from a template. The template, they're separated into different quest types. So you have customer feedback, market research, employee feedback, etc. And you have your quest templates under that. And all of the quest templates are actually pre-translated into 4 languages. So it might be worth having a look into those once you start using Essentials. But like I said, you can also start it from the very beginning. In Activity Overview, you have a few different sections. You have your work history again. You have the latest quests with responses, your active quests So you have shortcuts to different sections. You can move these around if you want. You can get rid of different sections, so you can customize it to look like you want it to look. If you've done something, if you deleted sections and you want them back, there's always a reset layout option here. So there we go, fairly simple. That's the activity overview. Before we go to quests, we'll have a look at contacts and menu first. So by contacts, we mean email lists or lists of recipients for a quest, a survey. So groups of recipients. If you want to create groups for recipients, you just type in a name and you enter email addresses, and that way you can have your certain quest recipient groups that you can then use when you're distributing your quests. We'll have a look how that works when we're actually building and distributing a quest. In the menu, a few of the most important things. Obviously, first of all, you can get onto our site, and then if you have a separate NPS module active, there's a shortcut for the NPS reporting. You do have a standard NPS reporting in the reports as well, but there's an extra module available with more detailed NPS reporting, NPS filtering, things like that available. So if you're interested in that, you should contact your own Questback contact person. But as I said, there is a general NPS function in Questback already, or Essentials already, so you don't necessarily need that. Under your own name, you have your own settings. So, for example, if you want to change your interface language, your country details, your password, so all your general stuff, you can do that from here. Under account settings, you just have your account details, account number, things like that. So nothing much more really. Under users, there's a user list of users, and if you're a super user, so if you have admin rights, you can also create new users, delete other users, or even inactivate users by using the active tick box. So if somebody goes away for half a year, you can still have them in the list of users, but they're inactive, so the license space is freed up for somebody else. Under user groups, you can create groups of users. We're going to have a look at folder rights, so you can designate user groups for folder rights. So that might be useful if you have large numbers of users and you are the administrator, so it's easier to administer your users. We have a media library option here in the menu already. From your media library, you can upload the images that you want to use in your surveys. You don't have to do it from here. You can certainly do that by upload image, and then you will search for it on your computer, and you can upload it here. But you can also do this when you're actually compiling your survey in the Quest section. And also, obviously, you can log out from there as well. Regarding the help section, you have your support details. You can leave a support case from there. You have your support phone number, email, etc. And as I said, we have several updates per year to Essentials, so we appreciate your suggestions. If you find some functionalities that are maybe missing something, you'd like something to work in a different way, you can leave a suggestion from there. Under tutorials, you have tutorial videos, instructional videos, and those will be actually updated each time we have a version update in Essentials, so those are worth having a look at as well. Under add-ons, we have one add-on currently. It enables you to log in to Essentials directly from your Outlook, and also enable you to use your Outlook contact lists for sending out survey invitations. And of course, there's also a traditional user manual that you can download as well. So that's it for the general stuff. Now if we go to the quests section, we'll have a look what we find. When we go to the quest section, we see our folder structure. Of course, depends what you have rights to, which folders, but in general you should have access to, usually you have access to at least your organization folder, maybe a folder by your own name as well, and then there are different templates you can choose from here as well. So as I said in the beginning, there's a template option here, but there's also a template folder with more templates here. Whenever you're in the quests view and you see your folder structure, you have different buttons here. The new quest button we went through already. You can also create new folders, and if you create a folder, you can also designate user rights from folder settings. So the folder settings will actually come up when you create a new folder, but later on you can go in and change the rights from folder settings. So we'll have a quick look. And then there you can actually choose how to share the folder. Do you want to share it with anybody, all users? If you have groups here, you can also add groups to the people who can actually access your folder. And you can also move the location of your folder from here. So fairly simple once again. All the user access rights go on a folder basis. So if you have access to a folder, you also have access to the surveys within the folder. So you can't designate access to quests only. It's always done on a folder basis. Okay, I'll just choose a folder here now, and we'll have a closer look at the buttons that we have here. As I said, this creates a new folder. You also have a delete option, which either deletes chosen folders with all of the surveys under them, or then one or two or more quests. So that's where you delete quests or folders. Of course, be careful with that, because if you delete something and you confirm it, then it really is gone. If you want to duplicate, if you want to copy a survey, there's a button for that here. So if you do that, it will take an identical copy of the survey or the quest structure that you can then start working on. You can also move, for example, an entire folder of surveys if you want to another location. So it's really easy to sort of clean up your folder structure as well. You can also move a folder to another place in the structure. You also have a make default button here. This designates where your quests will be created by default. So if you, for example, click on new quest in the activity overview, it will create it in this folder here. So again, nothing too complicated. There's a status option here as well. What that actually means, on a folder level, there's private or shared. Private folders are only accessible by yourself. So if you want to add access to somebody else, you go to folder settings. And shared actually says that somebody else already has access to this folder as well. You have your quest statuses. Draft means that it's you're still working on a survey or quest and you still haven't published it. So these are still in the planning phase. You may also have active quests, which mean that they're open to responses, so they've been published. And the last one is closed, so they've been closed, so you can't answer those surveys anymore. And there's actually, if you have an active quest, you can tick it and stop, and that actually means that it will be closed from responses. And apart from that, obviously you'll have your name of the survey, you'll see who it's owned by, so owner of the folder, owner of the quest, so who's been working on that quest. Maybe the start time for responses, if it's been designated already, stop, so it means that after this it will be automatically closed. Response numbers, response percentages, if you sent out invitations, and different shortcuts to different parts of the actual quest, so preview, follow-up, reports, distribution, and designer. So what we'll do now, we'll start with a new quest from scratch, and I'll make it in this folder here. When we start building a new quest, we get different buttons or tabs here, again on the top. In the beginning, it might look like there's quite a few different options to choose from, but it's actually quite intuitive. You repeat the same process each time pretty much. So you go from left to right, you designate your general settings. In Designer, you actually build the structure of the survey. In languages, if you want a multilingual survey, you designate your additional languages. In distribution, you choose the different distribution options. So if you want to send out email invitations, you can set them up here, you get the open link, etc. If you want to set up notifications regarding different types of answers, so it sends an alert email right away, you do that from here. And then from here, you have a test option, a quest validation option, and here's where you actually publish the survey as well. The last three tabs or buttons, filters, reports, follow-up, they're regarding the time after you published it, so all of the answers that you want to work with, the reports are done through here. So you can filter your reports by using different filters, then you can view your reports, and you can also contact the respondents later on after they've answered. As long as you have their email address, you can send them a follow-up message and possibly create a follow-up dialogue from there if you need to do that. So yeah, pretty much you follow the same path each time, and I'll go through most of the functions now, starting from settings. So when we start building a new quest, we just choose the quest type. So generally speaking, what the quest is about, what area it's regarding. So I'll choose customer feedback for mine. And then you just set up a name for the quest. You can set up a quest introduction. This is not compulsory, so this is optional. But here for the first time you actually see the text editor, which will look exactly the same in the designer as well, for example. So you have a few different options regarding fonts, creating links, font types, and you also have an icon for your media library. So if you click on this, you get your media library, and then you can, again, if you want to upload more images, you can do that from here, or you can add the image that you want into the text editor from here. So right now in the introduction it has our Questback logo. But yeah, this is completely optional. If you want a more advanced editor, there's an option for that as well, the icon here. And that opens up many more icons to choose from. So for example, you can align your text, indentations, lists, tables, things like that you can create here. And both the basic and advanced editor have an HTML section as well, so you can insert HTML code. So for example, if you have your text with ready-made HTML design, you can add it here, for example. So that's the text editor. Under the introduction, you have a thank you note option. Of course, you want to thank the respondent in some way. It has an has a default message, thank you for your reply, but of course you may want to customize this and maybe add images, etc. There's a redirection option. Under that, you can redirect respondents upon quest completion to a landing page, for example, or you can even take the open link from the distribution section and add it here, which means that it will create a looping survey. So when one respondent replies and respondent finishes replying, click send, it will actually loop the quest straight to the beginning. So if you want a self-looping quest, that's the way to do it. Ownership and location, who owns the quest, so who's the main person responsible for the quest. You can change it here. So if you've been building a survey but you want somebody else to continue, you can always change that from here, and you can also change the folder where the survey is located or the quest is located from here. Hidden identity can be quite important. You can hide the respondent identity. So if you have a survey or quests where you don't want to compile any respondent information, you don't want to be able to connect an email address, for example, to a certain response, you can hide the identity from here. So if you've sent personal email invitations, the email address that it's been sent to can no longer be connected to a response. Or you can set it up as optional as well, and that will give the respondents an option to choose if they want to hide their own respondent details or never, and then you can always identify the respondent in reporting. Regarding the outlook of the actual response form, you have a couple of options. You can set up logos to your response form, so they'll show up on the top of the form. You can choose from themes. You have quite a few different themes to choose from here. And you may also have your organization-specific themes that have been built for your organization here. If you need more of these, you can always contact your Questback contact person to have more themes created for you. And for emails, you can also choose a theme to see, to change what the actual email that is sent will look like. Of course, if the recipient email program only supports text emails, then this will just show up as text, but you can certainly make it look nicer by choosing one of the actual email themes. The reason why you can't completely, designate everything regarding your survey outlook is because it's actually optimized for every sort of device that you're responding from. So it will look different when you're responding on a mobile phone compared to when you're responding from a desktop computer. So it always requires a little bit of coding to make it look good. Under response options, you have quite a few options as well. You can send a copy of each response to an email address. So if you've sent out an invitation survey to some sort of event, you can send a copy of every response to some email address that you can choose here or type in here. If you want to allow multiple responses per respondent, you can set that up from here. So if this is not ticked, then we'll actually allow just one response per respondent. So we'll actually store a cookie on the browser, which will then recognize that this respondent has already responded. And that applies both to open links and email invitations. So if you want to allow multiple, then you choose that here. You can also display back buttons at the bottom of each page if you want the respondent to go back in the survey. There's also an opt-out invitation option to the email invitation that pertains to this particular quest. So if you want to add an option to the recipient so they don't, for example, receive reminder emails anymore, things like that, then you can add an opt-out option to the email invitation from here. But as I said, it only pertains to this particular survey, so they can still receive emails regarding other surveys or quests. You can also send a copy of a response by email to the respondent. So again, if you had invitation to an event survey, they might want to see the one, the details of the event that they've signed up for. You can set that up as always optional. That means they can type in their own email address or never. You can also set up a couple of security details. You can set up quest-specific passwords if you want, and there's a use SSL option, so that just means that the response link will be in HTTPS form. So it's a secure link, and probably you should always keep that ticked. Last thing is quota settings. So if you want to set up a quota, so maximum response number for the quest, you can set that up from here, and also what happens when the quota is reached. So that's it for the settings, and then we'll actually go to the designer to set up the actual structure of the survey. When you go to designer, you have your structure side here. So this is where all your questions will appear, page breaks, etc. And from the larger parts of the screen, then you'll actually choose your question type, you'll set up your question properties, settings, etc. So what we'll do, we'll just add a couple of questions here. 1, 2, 3. And we might also want to separate our questions by adding page breaks after one of the questions. So I'll just add a page break right away after question number 1 by clicking on it and just adding a page break. So now we have a page break between questions number 1 and 2. It's also quite easy to move your questions around, so you can just grab them, drag and drop, or you can use the arrows provided here. It's also easy to copy questions or duplicate them. There's an option here. Or if you want to get rid of a question, delete a question, there's an icon for it next to the duplicate one. So yeah, it's really easy to actually set up your questions. You just add them, and then you just add page breaks to the right points within the structure. You also have another actions option here. So if you want to set up the same properties on multiple questions, so let's say you have loads of single select vertical questions and you want to set up the same properties for several questions at once, you can do that from here. Or you can of course do that one by using the question properties drop-down menu. You can randomize question sets, so you'll get question sets that are in random order for each respondent. Or you can use an import question option that will actually provide you with an Excel sheet with examples of all question types. So if you want to, you can actually build your quest structure in Excel and then just upload it by using the start button and then uploading the Excel file. So if you want to work on your quest structure in Excel, if you're really experienced, it might actually save you quite a bit of time, especially in longer surveys. So that's probably useful to remember that other actions, you have an import questions option there too. Okay, so now you have some questions added. The first thing you do after that, you choose your question type. So we'll have several question types to choose from. We have single select questions, and each question will also have an example provided there. So single select, of course, means that the respondent can only select one of the response options provided. The response options can be vertical, horizontal, in a matrix. So in a matrix, you can actually have sub-questions For example, in this one you have your ease of use, information, design, and they're all evaluated using the same scale. So in this case, good, satisfactory, bad. So you have these sort of question matrices that you can build if you're asking the same thing about different aspects. And also regarding single select, you have a drop-down option. So if you have a large number of response options, you might want to use the drop-down rather than vertical, for example. You also have an NPS option. So NPS question type is an option as well. So you get an NPS scale from 0 to 10 that you can choose from. You also have a satisfaction meter. This is just a simple sort of smiley question with 5 steps. That's easy to use. You can also build your own select questions with smiley faces, for example, using the single select question types, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But satisfaction meter is just a graphical smiley question, really easy and quick to implement. You also have a priority drop down and priority drag and drop. So if you want to ask the respondent to choose a priority for the response options that you've designated, you can do that here, either using the drop down menu, so you can set up the priorities like 1, 2, and 3, for example, or drag and drop. Then the respondent can actually drag and drop the response options from left to right into the order that they want. You also have a multiple choice question type, so it's the same as single select, but the respondent can choose several response options. So again, either vertical, horizontal, or matrix. Of course, you need to have your open answer question types as well. We have 3 different ones, so we just have an open answer short, where the respondent can type in a short open answer on one row. Open answer short multiple. So if you're, for example, using or asking for contact information, so you can set up several lines of single select, open answer lines next to each other or under each other rather. Or you can set up an open answer long question type, so they can type in up to 4,000 characters. Then you just have some miscellaneous ones, just a date calendar question type, so you can choose a date from a calendar. Information text, so this can be any text, images that don't actually require any sort of response from the respondent. So if you want to just type in an introduction text to page 2, for example, you can use the information text for that. And there's also an upload file option for the respondent. You can actually define file formats, maximum file size, and you can have several upload file questions there too if you want. So that's it for the question type. After you chose the question type, so we'll choose single select, then you designate your question properties. First of all, as default, there's a 1-line question text here, so you can certainly type in your question text here, or if you want, you can include additional information regarding the question. So if you want to have a longer description or instructions to the question, you can do that here, and you can also add images regarding the question text here using the media library. So once again, same thing. Now you have a longer description. You can actually also, if you want, you can hide the question text. We'll have a look at that too, and have all the instructions and question text in this longer editor additional information option here. As we chose a single select, we set up answer alternatives, so we'll just choose 1, 2, and 3 for now. So we have 3 answer alternatives to choose from. And like I said, you can actually even add pictures next to the answer alternatives by using the answer alternative settings here. So you can add an image that you can choose from your computer. So this is the way to, for example, create your own smiley question or whichever images that you want to use in a single select question. There's also an option if you want to, for example, if you have a target group and one of these doesn't belong in the target group, one of the response options, you can also, for example, end the survey right away for those respondents or direct them to a website. Obviously, the question properties for each question type are a little bit different. So in the beginning, it's a good idea to go through the question properties for each question type. For example, single select, you can also change the numeric values. So if we have, like, let's say, worst, average, best, so that would be starting from 1. That would be a 2, and that would be a 3. If you want to swap it around, so the best response option with, obviously, the best numeric value would be first. You need to change the numeric values from here, because as average, as default, as you can see, the numbers always start from 1. So we'll do this. Now we only have 3 response options, so those numbers at the moment don't matter. You can also, if you want, you can delete them completely, and you can also always add more response options from here, or delete them, move them around, whatever you want to do. There's also a paste option for answer alternatives. You can delete all of them. You can now add, I don't know, answer alternatives, other. You can do many things, and as I said, it's always a little bit different regarding the question type that you've chosen. Then you can also set up question settings. You can set up dividing lines about questions. You can actually hide entire questions if you want. So let's say that you're doing 3 rounds in a survey for the same respondents. During the first round, they only answer questions 1 and 2, and you have also questions 3 and 4 maybe. You can turn off questions 3 and 4 using this option here, and then later on, if you want to show them the question, you just take the tick off that. You can show the question again to the respondents when they're coming to answer again the survey later on. So there's an option for that. And like I said, you can also hide a question text. So you can hide this and just include all of the question information into the additional information text editor here. So the respondent won't be able to see the question text at all. You can also set up questions as mandatory. So there's an option for that here. So if you set up a question as mandatory, they can't actually proceed in the survey to the next page before they've answered the mandatory question. And if you have a single select, you can randomize answer alternatives here as well. There's also routing, and for that, I'll actually get a template because we don't have time to build an entire survey here. I'll just choose one of the templates. I'll go to English, sales meeting evaluation should be fine. So I'll just tick that and duplicate. And it will ask some details, so I'll just put test. It's fine. You can designate a folder, start, stop, date, theme. You can choose, change all of these later on as well. But I'll just take a copy of that. And I'll just sort this quickly so you can find it easily. There it is. So we have a ready-made structure. Some of the question text doesn't look too good, so I'll change it. Introduction. That's fine because it's just information text. And then you just ask different things regarding the actual sales meeting, satisfaction, comments, work that certain things agreed upon during the actual sales meeting, etc. So we have a ready-made structure now. So for example, if we want to show certain questions to only some of the respondents, we can do a routing to that question. So let's say we want to show question number 4 to the ones who were very dissatisfied in question number 2. So they chose very dissatisfied one. We go to the target question and choose routing. As default, everybody sees every question, but yeah, then you can choose routing, and then you just set up some criteria how that works. So if they've been dissatisfied, so you just choose the question and tick very dissatisfied one. Only these respondents will then be able to see this question. And we can actually see an icon for that. So routing is applied to this question. So in the first sub-question of question 2, they were really dissatisfied, then they see question number 4 on the next page. So always set up routing on the target question, and the question that you create the routing from has to be on the previous page. So the source and the target had to be on separate different pages. And we can also, for example, we can set up question as mandatory. So let's do that. And it will also get an icon that this question is now mandatory. But yeah, we're pretty much happy now with our structure. We can always preview our quest from the top here. We have the same option already in the settings tab as well, for example. So we have our preview. It will just show each page within our survey, so what it contains and also what it looks like on different devices. So as you can see, when you choose your desktop, your matrices are with small text and small radio buttons. But if you choose smartphone, you have larger text, larger radio buttons, so it's easier to answer using your smartphone or tablet. And you can even see what it will look like if you turn your smartphone over. And you can see regarding the different themes from here as well. So if we want to choose a different theme, we can already see how it will look like. But yeah, we're happy with the result here. We won't go too far into languages. I'll just tell you quickly how you can actually add languages. So of course you have your default language, and this will be this pertains to the language of the buttons when answering, for example, as well. And you can set it up as a multilingual quest, and from here you can set up your additional languages. So I'll just set up German, for example, and you can set up several additional languages if you want, and then just choose whether you want to let the respondent choose the language with flags. It just means that it will have a German flag next to the actual text German. Or you can actually open the quest in the language of the invitation, so you can set that up when sending the invitations as well. Then you just have your translations tab with your, of course, with your survey structure, your original language that you created in your designer already translated or already added in there. And then you have a new selection for your additional language. All you do is you copy this template to a clipboard, You open it in Excel, Google Docs, wherever you want. You type in your translated text in Excel, and then you just add your translations here by using copy-paste, and then you can add as many additional languages really quickly rather than having to type in different question text, response option text manually here. So it's actually really easy to add additional languages. Distribution. So when you've set up your structure languages, you can also already set up your distribution details if you want. You can do this after you publish the survey if you want, so it's not mandatory to do it right now, but I usually set up something. For example, you can get your open link to a survey from here, distribute by link, tick that, and then just copy your link. You can also edit the end parts of the link. You can add an obligatory email input field, so that this will actually ask the respondents who click the link to input their email before they can start answering the survey, but this is completely optional. You can get rid of that from here if you want. You can generate QR codes and get pop-up scripts as well that you can then, for example, you can print a QR code, or you can get a pop-up script with instructions that you can then just send to your website administrator, and they can set up a pop-up survey from there. Or then you can distribute by email invitation. So you set up your invitees, and now we come to contacts. That's one of the options when you add invitees. So you have your contacts, your contact groups, or you can set up your invitees manually. So you can copy paste email addresses only here, or you can just, type in any email addresses here manually. You can import from a file. So if you have an Excel file with your email addresses and maybe your respondent details as well, you can do that from here. So I've set up an example respondent information email here. So in the first column A, it has your respondent emails. Then it has, this is optional, it has respondent information. So these are actually columns or fields that we know about each respondent already. So that we know which company they're from, which city they're from, which customer segment they have, and which salesperson visited each respondent. So as I said, you can also add respondent information from a file. So any information you know about the respondent already and that you want to use in reporting, you can add this way. And all this information will be completely invisible to the respondent. So I'll just try and add that. Like I said, even if you're using a file, it's completely optional to add those respondent information fields. So you either need to either add your email column, or if you have an extra SMS functionality available, that's available as well. You can send invitations to mobile phone numbers as well. But I just added my file. Now it's recognized what I've added. So I've added email, company, city, customer segment, and salesperson. So that all looks good. And then it's just showing me that we have the mandatory email field here, and we have some custom fields that we want to use as well. So the same ones I just showed you. And you can also set them up as filterable. So for example, you can filter the results by customer segment. So you can keep those ticked. If you have, let's say, for example, some respondent-specific information here, so like name, surname, you might not want to, you probably don't want to use that as filterable, because for every respondent is different. Whereas for customer segments, you might have, for example, 4 or 5 customer segments, and it's easy to filter results by customer segments. So those all 4 here are filterable. So we'll just do that. And now, as it has the same email addresses, it will actually tell me that there are duplicates. So I'll just allow my duplicates. And then it will actually say when I want to send the invitations. I usually choose not to send them, just add them, and I'll send them later on. So I've added 8 invitees who are not invited yet. And then when I've published the survey, what I then do, I just tick all of them, select all of them, and then send invitation, and then you can actually choose the date and time when you want the invitation to go out. You can also see details per invitee here if you click on one of them, and you can also see the respondent information fields that have been set up for them. Once you've added your invitees, you of course need to set up an email invitation mail with the actual subject and body. So you do that here. You set up sender name and email. That's up to you what you want to add here. As default, it will be your own details, but you can change these. Of course, if you're using somebody else's email address, you need the permission, obviously, or you can just use a no reply, whatever you want to set up here. Then you just set up your invitation subject, so that would be the subject of the quest, and then the body, so any invitation email text you may want to add here, and that will actually contain the link to answer the survey as well by default, or you can actually manually position the link in different forms here. So you can test these as well if you want. You can set up email reminders. There's an option for that here. Quarantine periods, default delays. So these are additional options to set up different things regarding the actual email invitation. Completely optional again. There's also a distribution log, which is useful, especially if you've actually sent it by email invitation, so you can actually see if all of the emails have reached their recipients as well. So you can export your distribution log. So if you see that you have bounces there, you can actually get an export Excel, and then you can see where the bounces are. If they're, for example, all with the same organization, you can contact somebody at that organization to ask them to please allow the emails through. So yeah, that's the distribution, and then really quickly notifications. So you can also set up notifications regarding different criteria. So if you want to notify somebody regarding a response, either every time somebody responds or when a response matches some criteria. So let's say that, again, you want to send an email to somebody regarding respondents who have been really unhappy. So you choose a question and then tick, for example, very dissatisfied. Of course, you can set up several questions if you want as well. Well, I'll just choose the first question. If a respondent answers very dissatisfied, we just set up a notification for that. We give the notification a name. We can specify a recipient or several recipients, or we can send a copy of the reply to the respondent too, if we want. Or we can even specify the recipient in the respondent data. But this would actually probably be, you know, if it's a sales meeting quest, something like this would probably go to the sales manager if there's a really dissatisfied respondent. So this would actually contain the sales manager email address, and then just notification of you know, okay, there's been an unhappy respondent, and then additional text, and then it will actually contain a link to the actual response as well. So that's the way you can actually set up notifications to quests as well. Then we just go to test and publish, where we have a validation option, so we can sort of have a look at our survey if there are any errors there. So for example, we have certain red errors here, so something's incomplete, and it won't actually let us publish the survey before we correct these errors. And it may also give us warnings. You can still publish the survey. It usually means that there are some missing texts or something similar. So we have to correct those errors. So I created a notification, but I didn't actually finalize it. So I either need to add some texts, recipients, etc. But in this case, I'll just delete it so it doesn't complain about it. And this example quest didn't actually have a quest type, so I'll add that as well. I'll go back to test and publish, validation. Now it's okay. It's only complaining about some missing text, but at this point, I don't care about that. I can go in and actually add the subject field later on before I send out the email invitations. We also have a test quest option. So this is where you can send test answers to the quest. So that could be found from there. And it actually has a test link that you can copy and send on to your colleagues as well if you want them to test the quest. So you can actually see exactly what the quest will look like, and you can send test responses to the quests. For reporting, if you want to generate test data, you can do that from here, which we will actually do. Of course, from here, you can also publish the survey, and if you want, you can already set up an end date. That's optional. And you can also set up when the quest will be available for replies. But now we'll generate test data so we can have a really quick look at reporting. So now we have 50 responses regarding the survey. We go into reports. We can have a look at a default report. We can create as many reports as we want from here as well. We can also create filters. I'll make a really quick, simple filter. So I'll create a new filter regarding designated by a value. You can also set up time interval filters. I'll choose a value filter, and I'll create a simple single condition filter. So you have an example for both kinds of filters here that you can actually have a look. The top one creates a single condition filter, so each response option will be their own comparison group, or a multi-condition filter, so that will actually create a combination filter, white or blue. But I'll make it as simple as possible. Just one single condition filter. So let's see, we had our salesperson. I'll just choose salesperson 1 as our filter. I'll change the name so it's in English. Next, okay. All right, and then we see our created filter here that we can then add to our report. So probably will be done in about 5 to 7 minutes, by the way. We can use our default reports, or we can also create as many reports as we want. When we create a new report, we can hide it behind a password. We can set up status for it, either private or public. That actually changes whether you can only use the reporting within Essentials, or with public, you can actually create live reports that are reports behind an internet address that you can then share on. And you can choose your layout as well. So I created a new empty report. Then I just add my questions into reports. I'll just choose select all. That's fine. So now we have the questions we've added to our reports. And again, we have different drop-down menus, First of all, we have our display settings and display. So this is where we actually set up the report chart, how it will look like. For example, we've chosen chart type bar and showing the data as average. So we have our first matrix question regarding satisfaction or dissatisfaction. It had several sub-questions, and now it's in bar form and in averages. If you want to change it to columns, we can do that from here, and columns and averages, or we can even show data as values, so the number of responses for each response option, percentages, and we can sort out the default order as well. Probably in this case it's best to show averages. So we can set up different things in display settings, and then we can see in display what it will look like. And we can also change all the texts here in the actual chart using the label editor. So then we have a basic report that will then save. We have our normal export options here. We can export the reports with the charts. So summarize reports, we can take out the raw data, or we can even take out the report metadata. So it's general information regarding the report. So for example, the live report address, etc. So export options are here. You can send it where you want. You have report settings, which actually now contains the live reports URL. So this is the address of this particular report that you can then send anywhere you want, as long as the status is public. And then you can just select the layout as well, one chart per page, or a dashboard layout, so it has several columns per page. I'll choose 2 columns and save it, and then just open up my reports on another tab, and then it actually builds our reports there. So that's the live report for you. So it's quite handy. You can send your reports just using an internet address, so it's really easy. We also chose to create a filter. We can set up the filter or actually create a comparison using the series. So we always have as default, these are all respondents. We can compare using the new comparison option. We either compare questions or filters. We have created a filter, so I'll just add salesperson 1. So we're comparing salesperson 1 to all respondents now. And I'll just use it in other questions. So I'll apply the filter to other questions. Let's just do it from here. Filters, salesperson 1, and use it in other questions, and yeah, I'll just add it to other questions as well. And now we have a comparison between all respondents and salesperson 1. So that's how we add filters as well. Last but not least, we have the follow-up option. So if email invitations have been sent or the respondent has given his or her email address, we can send them follow-up dialogue. So you have a list of respondents here, and you can click on an individual response by choosing an email address here. You can see the individual responses, and if you want to send a message to an individual respondent, you can type it in here. So that sends an email to this respondent, and when the respondent replies to that, you will actually get sort of a chat view, and you can be able to solve any problems that you might have had, or if the respondent was unhappy, you can start fixing the problems right away. Of course, you can use filters, so you can send cases, so follow-up cases, you can send them to several respondents at once, or you can filter them. For example, if I want to send a response to all of the people who saw salesperson 1, I can choose that filter and then just choose those respondents, send a new case, and I could send a new follow-up case to each of those respondents. But yeah, that's about it. We went a little bit over an hour 6 minutes. So just to recap, it is quite simple to set up your survey. So you just do it from Quests and you go through each step by step, easily just follow each step. So go through settings, your general settings, set up your survey from Designer, maybe your additional languages, then set up the distribution, maybe notifications. From here, you just test and publish, and after that, you just do your reporting. I know there's quite a lot of stuff for 1 hour, but as I said, we're also recording this session, so we can provide the recording for you as well if you want. And also, I'll stay now if you have any more questions, so you can leave those in the chat. So I'll wait around for about 10 minutes or so. But regarding the structure of the introduction training, we're all done. So if there's nothing further, thanks for attending and have a nice day.